Right, hello everyone. So, this is going to be a new type of campaign or tutorial I want to do, and this actually is more like a guide through milestones through the campaign. So in this case, the 5,000 kilometer milestone, probably one of the first steps if you're new to KSP to struggle with. The game will be played with Principia, and I'll try to explain or go through all the tools that I will be using through this tutorial, and it's just meant to be like a guideline for this, like like milestones we have here, like reaching the 5,000 kilometer downrange. We will go over what we need to actually achieve to do those milestones in your campaign. Like for example, here we can see the altitude, distance, and payload we have to take, and then what kind of technology we are going to use. We will be playing this campaign in a more difficult scenario, so this is going to be from high latitude, like from Baikonur, instead of, for example, like Cape Canaveral, where you're all at like what is like 25 degrees north, but we will be now at or 28, I think. We'll be now at 45 degrees north, so it will be more difficult to reach geostationary orbits, for example, and also for actually doing like injections to the moon, where we can't really line up on the moon's inclination because our native inclination will always be higher than the inclination of the moon, for example. I will be limiting myself to using only Russian and European technology because usually when I play, I'm playing heavily US technology focused. So we are now here at Baikonur, um, flying from here, and then we'll be limited to that Russian and European technology. So the first step we want to take is to build a rocket. I've already pre-built a rocket that is capable of doing so. It's not going to be optimal. This rocket is going to be Downrange 2. It's going to be heavily over-engineered for that purpose, but it is still more or less cheap to build. I'll be using the RD200 engines. Usually I'm using the RD100 engines or the Redstone engines in my playthroughs, as you can see here. Um, so, for example, we will be usually I use the RD100 in the higher configurations to do that. But as I said, it's not optimal with the RD200s. But I just want to give you some inspiration or a guide on that. You don't have to necessarily stick to history. Just use those rockets here, for example. So the engine in the middle, the second stage is going to be the engine from the Scott, which is rated for like 130, but I'm just using due to weight limits, 1 minute burn time. And then the U2000 is going to be the engine that I'm using at the third stage. This one is going to be non-guided. There's also with the Scud stage, even though it has gimbal, it's going to be guided. Later on, it's going to be more interesting because the thrust and weight ratio is going to be much, much higher. Right now, we're at like 32. But for example, if we go into later tech, that engine actually starts to get interesting because the thrust weight ratio is quite high on this. So we will be probably using this as a second stage then for our rocket later down to go into actual orbit, depending on how far we progress with technology. Right. So that's it. So the first stage is going to be comprised of a Ford of the RD200s. It's guided, and the upper two stages are going to be unguided. It is over-engineered. It should reach about I don't know 6,500, 7,000 kilometers of range. So even if we have an engine failure, for example, mid-flight, we can still recover and hopefully salvage the mission. So right now we need 17 more days to modify our launchpad that a launch complex that we've built so far for our previous missions, which I didn't cover. So to modify this with the higher weight, one more engine actually. I was using two only for all the other rockets. I was using three of the RD200s. So yeah, let's just warp to complete on this one, and then build the rocket, and from there on try to fly the mission. So in case you're wondering, where you can see the taskbar in the bottom, I'm still using very basic tech to just record, and I've actually messed up my voice line, so I'm actually just taking the recording and doing a voiceover. From there on, now we build our rocket, and once it's done, we're going to start the mission. What am I going to use else for technology here? So we are using Principia, but that's not going to be taking into account for the first few videos. And also Mechjeb dev version, development version, which we're going to go deeper into when we use our first orbital rocket in the next video. Also, I'm using RSS Soul from Ballistic Fox, which is an RSS replacement that's still in, well, so to say, early access. You can get it through Ballistic Fox Patreon, and I think he's going to replace this with RSS Reborn, I think latest in December, or once he actually finishes and goes to version 1. Right now I'm using the 16K technology textures, which already look nice. Performance is really good, in my opinion, on the texture pack itself. Right, so we're using SmartAss to get the rocket up. As I've said, Mechjeb with the dev version, especially with the ascent guidance, that's going to be heavily part of next video. So we're starting here, throttling up, releasing, and from there on, I'll just control the pitch manually of the rocket to see where it will go, or to direct it where it will go. I'm not really aiming for like a perfect ascent profile. I just want to show you that you can do it with the technology. Oh yeah, there's an engine that failed. So even though, as I've said, I've over-engineered that rocket, and hopefully we'll be able to make this. Of course, we have a little imbalance. Rocket starts to roll a bit because we're not controlling roll yet, but we still stay on track. The engines are going to be overburning now, quite a bit. They were rated with all 4 engines for 1 minute 45, while the rated burn time of the engines is 1 minute 25. But as I said, I wanted to give you just a little guidance on how rockets can be done while still be more or less efficient, but give you a lot of room and be flexible enough. So yeah, let's just hope that not another engine will fail during our ascent here, and see if we can still salvage that mission and complete the contract. Right. So yes, when it comes to the ascent guidance, going to orbit with the next video, it's going to be heavily focusing on Mechjeb, how to use it, or how I use it properly. I wouldn't say properly, but how I use it successfully. On the other hand, this setup here, we don't need it. As I've said, yeah, the rocket is over-engineered. It's still using basic technology. You shouldn't need to have like a perfect ascent profile as you would have in some designs that are maximized for like speed running the game, which I highly respect. But I'm trying to keep this here as simple as possible and as beginner friendly as possible. I'm starting to spin up the stage right before it burns out because of the imbalance of the engine. It starts to tumble a bit. Since from now on, that rocket is unguided, so we want to give it a little spin stabilization because we're still in atmosphere, so there's still some kind of drag, and we want to keep this rocket as straight as possible during the ascent until we have main engine cutoff on the third stage. So it's especially important to not go into time compression while that rocket is spinning and tumbling, because KSP with the simplified physics will not like it and it will probably flip over. So we're going to stay here at the one-time time compression, or non-time compression like real time, and have it run. Yeah, as I considered before, we are now switching more or less to the space textures here. They're looking nice already with 16K textures. I will be changing this for later videos to the 128K textures to, yeah, torture my rig, but it's gonna look pretty. I hope that the YouTube compression is nice on this, because I'm recording this in 4K, so I really hope that it at least shows a bit of the skill of Ballistic Fox and Black Rag when it comes to the clouds and everything else, because that game is completely transformed from a visual perspective, in my opinion, and it looks wonderful. It looks so much better than KSP2, to be honest. Right, so now let's check if we can actually salvage the mission properly. We were actually quite lucky that we could overburn our engines in the first stage. So we have like 10 seconds left. It looks a bit close. I think we should make it. Yeah. So we now have main engine cutoff. Let's get the time compression here up and running and see if we make it. But it looks good. Like, we will make it. So I know we're like 4.5K. 5K, yeah, that's it. So we now achieved our downrange milestone, and the next thing we would need to do is to get this, or to get actually a satellite into orbit. I will be taking the heavy satellite contract for this. So the next video, the next step will be consisting of building a rocket that is more or less future-proof, to not just do it for one mission, but more to come. And then also to give some thoughts and options on which rocket to build. So it's not going to be one, but it's probably at least going to be two approaches here. So yeah, we're going to go for the heavy satellites, and after this, I hope you learned something, or if not, and I messed something up, let me know in the comments so I can learn something as well. And yeah, we'll see each other hopefully in the next video when it comes to actually building an orbital rocket. So have a good one. Good night.